news, everybody? Pernak here, coming at you with another video. So I was asked a few times, what tools do I recommend for the Lino artist to use? So that's what I'm going to do today in today's video, is I'm going to talk about what tools you should use, what tools you shouldn't use, and give my recommendations. So the first thing I'm going to go over is what I don't suggest you use. And the one that most people have access to is this one, the speedball tool. I've talked about them before. I don't like them. They're basic. You loosen this part up right here. You slip your things in there. And you got all your little different blades right here. You just put them in. Now, I don't recommend these ones, mostly because, A, you don't sharpen the blades. You just throw them out. If you do want to use these, they do work, but they are hard to keep sharp. They go dull pretty quickly, and you go through blades decently quick, especially if you're working on things like linoleum. And the blades aren't very precise either. They're just inexpensive things. When Speedball was first starting out, they probably made a much better product, but now it's the entry level, it's the beginners. Similar to that are other brands that are close to it. They look like this, this little thing. If you do decide to do this, try and get two handles so that way you can easily swap between blades, because switching the blades out does become an issue, but I don't recommend them at all. This is another one I found. This is from it's a German company. A big Lino words, I can't pronounce it, I'm not going to bother trying, but on the English side it just says Lino cutting set. And it's basically the same thing, except it's a wooden handle. You loosen this up, and you put it in, and their little blade doesn't really fit in here very well. I don't know what they were thinking. All their other blades fit in here, but their little blade doesn't fit, and that to me is a big issue. So I don't recommend any other style where you have to replace these blades like this for the most part. They are not very good. Finally, another one that you can get, is I actually don't have them anymore, because I got rid of them. But it's this one right here from Niji, or Yasumoto Niji. And they're basically wooden-handled ones, and they just got individual blades, and they work decently okay. They're just not great. You do sharpen them, but they could be really cheap, and they just don't feel that good, and I don't like using them. So I highly recommend that you, A, don't use the Niji or Niji styles like that. Anything similar to the Speedball one, just write them out and don't use them. That's what my recommendation is. Alright, so now I'm going to go over what brands I think you should be using if you're going to do this. The first ones I'm going to go over are these ones. There we go. Oh, you can read that better, right? Yeah. The Power Grips. These ones are actually decently inexpensive. They're about $10 to $12 a tool. I find them on Amazon. As you can see right here, it's Miki Soyo. I can never pronounce some of these words. Miki Soyo. Right here, as you can see. They are Japanese. I don't even know if you can read that. Yeah, you can kind of see it. Power Grips. That's basically the name that they're known by, is Power Grips. Be careful when you are ordering them, because if they don't have their little logo right here, they're not Power Grips. They might say Power Grips, but unless they have that little, registered trademark logo, they are not. And you can always tell that on the packaging. They just come in little packages like this. You can actually buy an actual set of them, and they are the brand that I would recommend for someone who wants something better, but not super expensive. Now, the first set that I got that was good was my, let's see here, Ramelson USA ones. They're basically a stainless steel. They got the little mushroom tip handles. They're flat on one side, as you can see here. And I got their wood carving set because it came with more tools. It came with 6 as opposed to 5. And their Lino set came with 5, and they're both the same price when I worked at Daniel Smith. So I was like, I might as well get the one that has 6. And it was a basic set that came with pretty much everything that I needed to use. And it is the set that I would probably they're okay. I've found better tools since then, but when I started out, these were my creme de la creme. They were my good tools. Eventually, I got into my flex carves, or flex cuts, I should say, not flex carves. Oops, that one fell down. And these are my kind of go-tos now. These are the ones that I like using the most. They come in two different ways. You can get them in a set like this. This is their big wood carving set, which you're going to probably pay somewhere between $100 and $125 for. It's called an 11-piece set. It has 10 blades. I'm missing a blade, obviously, as you can see. I lost it somewhere. I don't know. And it has a plastic handle like this, which you hold. And then the blades are like this individually, and you just slide the blade in, and it just holds it in with friction. It's in there pretty good. You have to use a little strength to get it out, so it's not like it's going to fall out. And even if it does, you can always buy a replacement handle. You can buy new blades. You can do all of that. They do have a couple different sets. I know they have like a Lino set that has like 4 blades and a handle in it. And it comes with a small version of their slip strap, which is the other thing I want to talk to you about, which was this item right here. Their Lino set comes with a small one that's only half the size of this. And this is basically, I've got a more well-used one right here. The good one here is you can see the 2 different angles, the different, and then the different sizes of everything. The leather there, different, and it helps hone your tools. It doesn't sharpen them, it hones them, so it keeps them sharp. If you got to sharpen them, you're going to have to get out a whetstone and everything and do it that way. But that's not what I'm talking about. But their 4-color, or their 4 set is probably about $50. That comes with a small, tiny little strip strap. Now, you can also buy their tools individually, and they do come like this. It's basically a same thing, except they have and you can see it right here, the blade is mounted permanently in a wooden handle. And you're supposed to kind of hold them down like this, and they're actually very comfortable to use. And one of the nice things about the Flex Carve, and you can see it there, but they got a little flexible. And when you're carving, it's kind of interesting to use that flexibility when you're carving. You don't really notice it, but you can if you put a lot of pressure on it. They're just real flexible, and they're really nice for that. And that's one of the reasons I like them. They're also decently inexpensive. You can buy the individual tools from anywhere from $15 to $20 a piece easily. Unless you get into some of their big tools, because I do have one of their big wood gouges here, as you can see. And, I mean, this thing is, compared to the others, it's very, very big. This one was probably closer to $35, and it's still flexible, which is the nice thing about those. Because they're not using a stainless steel, they're using more of a carbon steel, which has more of a flex to it. And that's the whole point of it. That's why they're calling flex cut carving tools. And even with their knives and the things that they do, like their flex cut knife here, they all use the same kind of carbon steel that is more flexible. They keep great points, they're very sharp, and which is one of the reasons I highly recommend them. Now, the next tool I'm going to talk about, or brand I should say, is the Swiss-made Thills. And, they got that mushroom handle, just like my Ramelsons do. Stainless steel. They don't flex hardly at all. And I love these tools. They are very nice. They are definitely much more expensive. You can pay anywhere from about, I think I paid $33 on this one, plus shipping. And trying to find them right now is kind of difficult. So you have to find someplace that actually has them in stock. Ever since COVID, it's been a little difficult. But these are supposed to be the best of the best. And for the most part, yes, they are. Like I said, stainless steel, super precise. They're very, very, very good tools to use. But they are by far the most expensive. I think a set of 5 of them will probably run you about $150, or at least 120. I think they're pretty darn expensive. I think their set of 11 is $230, something like that. They're up there. This little, like I said, this little bad boy just cost me about $33 plus shipping, so about $40 total for everything for just one tool. I could basically get almost a whole flex carve set for that, and definitely the power grips too. Now I've told you which brands to use. Now I'm going to tell you which tools you should get. If you're not going to get a set and you want a piecemeal and you want to get individual tools, first off, the first one you always want to get is what I always recommend, is the smallest V-gouge you can get. So like this is the flex carve one. Let's see if we can get this to zoom in here and focus on that tip. You can see it's a little bit of a V-gouge. It's kind of hard to see, but it's a small little V. And these are your workhorses. These are the ones you're going to use the most. Now, I do have one from Power Grip 2, and I got it. And I don't know if you can see this tip. It kind of looks like it's got 2 little points on it. So the sharpest part is like right here. If you can look here, right at the very bottom right here. While the others, like if you look at Flex Carve, doesn't have that. It's not extreme like that, or even especially this one here for the feel. So this one is a little weird to me to use because it doesn't end bluntly. And it took a little getting used to try using this one. It does a good carve. And if you keep it sharp, it will be very good. Their tools are also more of a carbon steel too, but they're not as flexible as the Flex Carve. So they are a little stiffer. But the number, like the smallest V-gouge you can get, like a 1 millimeter or 1.5 millimeter. This one's a 1.5. This is a 1. This is a 1. This is your workhorse. This is the one you're going to use the most. So if you're going to get anything and spend money on any really good one, go with a good 1 millimeter V-gouge. Now, the second one you want to get is at least a small to medium size U-gouge. And this is the one I use for my flex carves. You can kind of see it right here. Does it say? It doesn't even tell me what the numbers or anything on them are. But I find a medium U-gouge is very good for clearing away extra things without using the large ones. And even my Rammelson has a very small, shallow U-gouge here, as you can see. It's not real deep. And it's got a small, shallow little U-gouge too. So, I mean, you can get like a 1 millimeter U-gouge, or you can just get like a 2 millimeter, which would 2.5 to 3 millimeter, which would be pretty good too. Like the Flex Cut big, this is their big U-gouge, and you can see how deep that gouge is. This one also works decently well. I prefer more of a smaller one, more like this Flex Carve one, where it's a small, shallow one, or their small. This was a small, medium U-gouge, where it's probably a 1.5 to 2 millimeter one. And I find this also useful because once you've carved away everything with your small V-gouge, I use this one to carve a little bit wider. And that way I'm not using a V-gouge to carve everything. It's kind of going to keep it more flat, and I like using it more. After that, that's when I will get into your wider U-gouge to remove the excess material faster. I also like using sometimes the big ones are very handy to use right here. And I like using these for carving away large amounts of material. Now, the flex carve set, the wood carve set that I have, and this is the one that I use the most of, I've got these two big U-gouges, and you can see the difference in them. This one is very flat, and this one is more rounded. And I like using this, especially if you're someone who doesn't like inclusions in their work. I use this, the flat one, to kind of smooth them all down a little bit more, which makes things a little bit easier. And I like using this one. It works very well. But basically, that's pretty much the actual tool. So the recommendations: a small 1mm V-gouge, a small to medium U-gouge, a larger U-gouge to remove everything. Those would be the three you absolutely should have to make everything faster and work better for you. All the rest of the tools are just small little time savers that you can use, that I like to use. And another one that I do find very helpful is also Power Grip makes them. And they're the only ones I've seen to make them, other than some of the cheap Nidgies, or they have the flat ones, as you can see here. So this one is, you can see it's flat on one side, beveled on the other. So this side is the sharp side. And sometimes this can be very useful for just carving into, and you can make your own V, carving one direction and carving the other. And it's important that it is flat on one side and not the other, because that's what I find helps the best. Because at first, when I started getting these, I bought the skew knife from FlexCarve, and I found it didn't help me that much. It's beveled on both sides, if you could see that. And that doesn't really help me that much. So I was kind of upset about that. And I have this knife that I haven't been using, and I just need to find it a good home, I guess. But yeah, a flat one can be very helpful. But even just a X-Acto blade was also helpful for removing small little bits of things. But I find these good for kind of shaving down things a little bit in some areas where you have to do a little touch up or something. I find that these work very well for that. And this is why I really got into the Power Grips, because they're the only ones that really make a variety of them, as you could see. Big, medium, small, right here. And I like these. These work really well for, especially if you want to do Japanese wood carving. In the traditional method, because they basically kind of put these in and pull and carve one side of the line, and they'll carve it away, and then it's a whole process. It's a definite unique process. So basic tools: your small V gouge, small to medium U gouge, and a larger U gouge, and maybe an X-Acto knife or a flat edged one. Even my Ramelson kit that I have had a flat one in it too, as you can see. Now it's a little bit different shape, but one side is flat and the other side is beveled. And what I like about this one is it's they're actually beveled different ways. So do pay attention to which ones you buy, because there are right-handed and left-handed ones for different bevels, and you can use both of them. It's just when you're holding it, sometimes it's easier to use a left-handed one or a right-handed one, depending on the angle that you're carving from. But overall, those are the tools, and those are the recommendations. Most people love the feels. If you're going to buy them, and you only want to buy one, go with your little tiny V-gouge. That's the workhorse. That's the one that's going to work out great. And then a small to medium U-gouge is very handy. And then a large U-gouge. Those are the three basic ones. And a little flat one or an X-Acto knife can be very handy to have on hand. Also, recommendations for a few other sizes. Small, tiny U-gouges work really well. I do find myself using my little 1mm U-gouge a decent amount. And then a little bit larger V-gouge right here too from my flex cuts. And I also have a larger V-gouge with my individual flex cuts. I find the little larger V-gouge sometimes helps remove some areas that are in like little tiny areas and it's just a little harder to get the U in there, this can help quite a bit. And then a large flat one too, to help remove as much material too, to smooth it down if you don't like the smoothness. Other than that, those are the tools I recommend. Other than, you know, also get that slip strop, especially if you're going to sharpen them. Any of these tools, any of these good tools, get this slip strop. This is probably about, I believe it's around $15. It comes with the rubbing compound and your little slip strop. And it's got leather on this side, right here, leather here, different things right here. And it is made of wood, so eventually this thing will kind of wear down and you just got to replace it. I have 2 of them, one in a package still. I've had this one for 4 years, and or actually longer than that, about 5 years. And I haven't had to replace it yet. You just keep adding more and more of this stuff to it. I mean, this thing's only 5 years too. I haven't gone through it much. But if you're going to sharpen and you want to sharpen it in other ways, get a piece of honing leather and some polishing compound, and that can, you know, keep your tools sharp too. If you don't want to buy theirs, you can just buy some polishing compound. I've done that before too. And just a piece of honing leather works great. Rawhide, just rawhide leather, that's all you really need. Well, everyone, that's my recommendations on brands and what tools you should use and which ones you want to focus on buying. As always, remember, go down below, subscribe or like this video. That helps me out. And also, if you really want to support me, you can also follow me on Instagram, my Tumblr, or my Twitter. And then also visit my Etsy store. You can purchase one of my prints. Until next time, everyone, see ya. Bye.